Welcome to the Reheat on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. We're switching things around. We're putting this on Monday. We will keep Wednesday Night Live. LC will be hosting that. But during the offseason, we're going to switch this around and have this be your Monday night show. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, now's the time. You need to go to InsideTexas.com. Sign up. You can just pay $1 and get 4 months of access. That'll get you basically all the way to the beginning of training camp, and you're not going to want to miss out on it after that. So recruiting, official visits, spring football, all the different stuff. Head to InsideTexas.com, $1 for just 4 months. We're recording this on Monday, so we want to make sure that we talk about everything going on with Texas football. I know Eric and Charlie and Homer talked this morning about what they're looking forward for spring practice. But we got Pro Day tomorrow as well. On Tuesday, always at the bubble. Sometimes, over the past 10 years in the dark ages, there wouldn't be much to talk about. But Texas just sent, 14 or 15 guys to the combine. And there's going to be a lot of probably some high-profile GMs, coaches, scouts there in Austin to see some of the real big talent that's going to be on hand and working out this week, right, RT?
Yeah, this is a far cry from the years where the Pro Day almost served as the last-ditch effort to hopefully get 1 to 3 guys drafted. Now you're looking at a Pro Day that's looking to elevate guys who already have really strong draft positions, and then you're hopefully wanting to see some guys make some noise who maybe were previously looking at being an undrafted free agent, or at least if they're going to be an undrafted free agent, they're going to be the guys who the draft ends, and then you all of a sudden you get that notification so-and-so has signed with the Miami Dolphins, with the Carolina Panthers, and it's already a done deal, where at that point they're basically a drafted player, kind of like how Jordan Whittington was drafted. But there have been a couple instances of guys like that in the past few years with Texas, where as soon as that ticker ends, they're getting picked up on a team.
This is fun because, we've gone over what we're looking forward to in the future. This gives us a chance a little bit to look back, but then also to see what these guys may be able to do in the NFL. And they do have a lot to prove. We'll start on offense. I don't expect guys like Matthew Golden, Kelvin Banks to really do a whole lot. They had strong combine performances, but it feels like there's going to be a lot of coaches, GMs, otherwise, who come in. And I know Sports Illustrated's already reported that there's going to be a ton of interest on Quinn Ewers and what he's able to do throwing the football this upcoming Tuesday.
Yeah, with Quinn, you heard guys like Todd McShay after the combine in Indianapolis say that he looked good, and he still has him as a day 2 pick, but on his deep balls, he still felt like there were some floaters. So you're looking for the deep ball. Obviously, you're looking to make sure all the signs of health are there. But I think hopefully this can at least solidify Quinn as being an early day 2 pick, because, unless we see somebody get a real wild hair, I think day 1 is out of the question.
One of the things, I can't remember where I saw this, but teams don't spend second round picks on quarterbacks very often. It's a very odd place, it feels like. I know that Will Levis was in that range a couple of years ago, but he was thought to be a first round guy. There were conversations about him being a top 10 guy. It's not like you basically get second round grades at quarterback. And I think some of it has to do with contract stuff. But I do wonder if there are some teams that have maybe aging free agency quarterbacks who are 1-year stopgaps, who look at Quinn and think, maybe this is the guy we look to in the future and groom. The other ones that have some really big things to do at this Pro Day, one is Gunnar Helm, and it really stunk for Gunnar Helm. The combine was great for Texas, but it was not good for Gunnar Helm, because after a false start on the 40-yard dash, he's backpedaling. And remember when Tony Finau hit that hole-in-one at the Masters Par 3, and he twists his ankle, and then he has to go play the Masters the rest of the weekend. Same type of thing with Helm. I know he had done some drills already, but that is you twist your ankle when you need to be at your physical best, and you don't get to post the good times. You don't look probably as good as you'd like. And so what he has to do now is go out there and not just show, all those physical skills that he had throughout the course of the season, being the leading pass catcher for the Longhorns, but do everything that he was expecting to do in Indianapolis about a month ago. And I think the third guy we talked about was Cam Williams. We saw the last we saw Cam Williams, he was fighting through an injury, fighting through Jack Sawyer, unfortunately. Didn't get to do a whole lot at the combine, and now has a chance to show at 6'6", 317 pounds. There's a lot of upside there for an NFL team.
Yeah, I think with Cam Williams, you obviously just want to show that there's more than just raw potential. You want to show that there's more than just a theoretical here, because every scouting report I've read on Cam Williams is like, well, if this and this and this happens, then he could be, he could be a stalwart, he could be a bookend for X amount of years. But obviously, you want to show that it's all coming together. And I think it could be. I mean, the biggest thing working against Cam Williams is he only had 1 year as a starter, and then he missed some time at the end of the season. So I think obviously he just needs to show that it's all clicking upstairs, downstairs, that it's coming together at the right time, which, he's definitely, you have conversations or you hear conversations, which I frankly think are silly, but is Kelvin Banks really a tackle in the NFL, or is he really a guard, arm length, stuff like that? With Cam Williams, there's no question. There's no question at all. He is 1,000%. He looks the part of a guy who's going to start at left tackle for 10 years in the NFL. It's just about, can he put it all together?
He has massive hands. I think it was like 10 or almost like 11 inches or something like that. Like those are some mitts. So if he gets you in his grasp, as we saw, it's hard to get away from him. Looking on the defensive side, again, Jahdae Barron, that's going to be a guy who goes really high. Alfred Collins may not be too far behind him, but there are some guys who do need to prove that what they did at the combine, they back it up. One of them we think is Andrew Mukuba.
Yeah, Andrew Mukuba, like a guy we're fixing to talk about. But I think the thing that Andrew Mukuba has working in his favor is he played his best football at the end of the year and in the playoffs. So that's going to be fresh on everyone's mind.
And then the other one is Vernon Broughton. I don't think he had a full chance to go through everything, both at the whatever college all-star game he was at. I can't remember if he was Shrine or senior, and also at the combine. He's someone who, played his best at the end of his career. Played really good football at the end of the season, and now has a chance to show what he wasn't able to show in Indianapolis. There were some guys who didn't make it to Indianapolis. Gavin Holmes is one. Bill Norton is one. Looking on the offensive side of the ball, thinking about Silas Bolden. They weren't able to go participate in the combine. There was somebody else on defense who did not get that combine invite, but really wants to show that he is NFL material. And you've been able to communicate with him throughout some of his pre-draft, pre-pro day process, and that's David Gbenda. What are some of the things that you've been able to learn in talking with David as he gets ready for this pro day and as he gets ready for what's next in his football career?
Well, David is the type of person who is going to succeed in whatever he does. He's an incredible person. He's got a great story. Obviously, his parents coming from Sierra Leone made incredible sacrifices to get David and his sisters to the point in which they are. But David has another thing working in his favor, that he really played his best football towards the end of the year. His snaps were a little bit limited, as he was, more of a leader, more of like almost a basketball term, more of like a sixth man when it comes to that linebacker room this year, behind Leongo Lefau and Anthony Hill. But he had huge plays in the college football playoff. I mean, the third down stop before the gang tackle on fourth down of the Arizona State quarterback. Why is his name escaping me? Sam Leavitt. Yeah. So, I mean, that was a one-man stop by David Gbenda. That was huge. He had the giant interception of Will Howard. Second time he had intercepted Will Howard in his career. Did it way back in the day when Will Howard was on Kansas State in the COVID season. But he played great football at the end of the year. He obviously has all of the physical tools working in his favor. He was quoted by Torrey Becton saying that him and Jake Majors, another late round hopeful, are the strongest guys on the team. So I really think that you see David's resilience that's played out all through his Longhorn journey. The fact that he stuck around when other people would have left. I mean, it's cheesy to say that to some degree, but he stuck around and then he made it pay off by making some huge plays in the college football playoff and down the stretch for Texas.
I think he came back for his 5th year because he wanted to play in a Big 12 championship and win the Big 12 championship. And then he came back in his 6th year because he wanted to continue a lot of what he had already done. And he is one of the, as you'll explain in a second, one of the best players that we got to talk to. I remember one time, Kirk Bowles asked him, "Hey, you guys know that you're the favorite, right?" He's like, "What do you mean we're the favorite?" It's like, "Oh, we're the betters." And if you know anything about being a student athlete in the NCAA, they try to put the fear of God into you when it comes to wagering and stuff like that. So, the betters think that you're a favorite. And David just goes, "Betters? I don't know anything about that." And it was earnest, it was innocent, and it was awesome. But then I remember right after that, after the Ohio State game, when he, like you said, he had picked off Will Howard, you could tell that he was just thankful. Of course he was upset. Of course, he wished that the Longhorns could have played for the national championship against Notre Dame. But you could tell that he somehow had been able to do a lot of processing already about what he was able to accomplish throughout his career. And I remember I showed him a picture in 2018. I went to Cinco Ranch High School to see him get his Under Armour All-America jersey. He's like, "You still have that?" Like, man, thanks for keeping that. And it was awesome to see what are some of the things that he's done during this pre-pro day process that you've been able to track with him or hear him talk about.
Yeah, he's been working out in Dallas with a lot of draft hopefuls. Isaiah Bond has been up there, so they've been training together. Obviously, he's really trying to work on strength still, which is obviously something that he's got in droves already, but he's working on speed. And I think he's obviously just wanting to prove that the measurables are all there and able to, really wow some people. But I think he's the type of person that he's going to end up on a really professional organization that values somebody who has played in multiple systems. I think something that gets lost about David Gbenda, he played for 3 defensive coordinators, and he played for Todd Orlando.
No, you're right. 3.
Yeah. Todd Orlando, Chris Ash, and PK, and played a variety of different roles in those systems. So, he was really, it's a cliche term, but a coach on the field this year, and he was having to lead and play at the same time. And I think he's going to impress some people. So I think like we talked about earlier, I think his phone is immediately going to ring the second the draft's over if he doesn't get picked up in one of those later rounds.
If you're looking for a new home in the 512 or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description, as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
We'll keep going now, moving a little bit around. And of course, tune in tomorrow morning. I think it's Paul and Homer. We'll be talking spring football, some of the things they want to see. But we got to talk a little bit about the hard court. Keenan and I were on Sunday giving our thoughts about this. You had some good thoughts about Rodney Terry, and then after explaining what those are, other RT, the RT we get to keep talking about. I can finally just call you RT and not have to be like, no, it's Rodney Terry. No, it's RT. You're RT. So what were your thoughts on RT being let go? And then also, what do you think about Miller as he heads from Xavier to Texas?
Yeah, Austin was only big enough for one RT, so I'm glad that he's gone and that we've finally, there's no confusion. No, I mean, it's obviously Rodney Terry was highly respected in the program. I was clear to point out in the article that whatever your stance on the things that occurred a couple years ago with the Longhorns' previous coach, Rodney Terry was put in a tough position. And, Rodney Terry was never going to be the coach of Texas if things hadn't transpired the way that he did. But he got he got to interview on the job. He became the coach of Texas, and he didn't succeed. And, but I think that doesn't mean that he left a mess. That doesn't mean that he left the program in a bad place. I don't think any of those things are true. I think that Texas basketball is largely the same program it's been for the last, 15 years, since the late Rick Barnes era, where things were maybe starting to get a little bit shaky. I think it's a program that has a lot of potential, that's maybe a little bit of a sleeping giant, but it still has things working against it as far as inconsistent fan support, as far as inconsistent donor support. And really, those things need to change in order for anyone to really maximize the potential of this program. That's not something that I think that Rodney Terry was ever going to solve, and hopefully Sean Miller can.
What do you think about Miller? I was thinking about this when I was responding over on the message board today, in that, when you look at Alabama, they hired someone in Nate Oates who had some great traits that were on display at Buffalo. And I think Todd Golden did the same thing at San Francisco before going to Florida. Even Chris Jans at Mississippi State, did great things at New Mexico State. Part of me kind of thinks that the closer analog to what Texas just did might be Bruce Pearl. And I think Bruce Pearl, you can look across the country, much better coach than probably anybody in the SEC. I think you can say that pretty safely based off what he's done throughout his career, even at Tennessee and even now at Auburn, leading a top team. But Bruce Pearl was a winner who had a little baggage for some things that you can probably do a little bit more of these days in the modern environment, and Auburn capitalized. You try to hire traits, and it feels like Sean Miller not only has these traits, but he's had these traits for like 20 years at high-end programs, and not just at, no offense, modern San Francisco without Bill Russell walking through that door, or, modern New Mexico State, where you can have a program hit the highest highs and then be literally shut down after you leave. Like, I feel like Texas got someone with upside, but it's not just upside. It's a lot of experience, who has also somewhat rediscovered himself in recent years as well.
Yeah. I think my first reaction, I've definitely come back on. My first reaction was like, this feels a little bit Doc Rivers-y in the playoffs, where how Doc Rivers, there would always be like the guy who would go off on the Clippers or the Celtics in the playoffs. It would be like a random bench guy like Josh Smith or somebody. And then the next year, because he was the Clippers and the Clippers GM, he would then sign that person. And so I was like, well, we just lost to Sean Miller and Xavier. This feels a little bit Doc Rivers-y, but I think as I've looked at it more, one, I'm just very excited for offensive basketball in Austin. It hasn't been since Tom Penders, which an era I really don't even remember, that Texas has had a true offensive coach and an offensive system that revolves around actual ball movement, actual creating of space, an actual offensive playbook, and not just, hey, we've got this transcendent talent in the form of KD or Trey Johnson or whoever, and let's let them just do isolation basketball. So I'm really excited for that. And yeah, I do think that there are some similarities to some guys that you've mentioned, like Bruce Pearl. And I even obviously thought of the way that Chris Del Conte hires, that it reminds me a little bit of Sark, where, Sean Miller probably thought that he had his dream job locked up at Arizona, and that was where he was going to be for the rest of his life. And things were looking that way, following as he got to follow Lute Olson, just in the way that Sark got his dream job in USC. Obviously, Sean Miller didn't have the personal struggles or failures that Sark did at USC, but he did get an FBI investigation for, like you said, things that are a little bit easier to do now in the NIL, in the transfer portal era. So I don't think his career, with that ending the way that it did in Arizona, has shaken out the way that he wanted it to. So I think hopefully even at 56, he still has something to prove. What I really didn't want to see was like an NFL coach style retread, where it's like, oh, let's hire, basically like the Bob Knight at Texas Tech move. That's what I was really scared of, like whoever that equivalent would have been for Texas. So I'm glad that we got Sean Miller, even despite his age. I think it's going to be exciting, and I just hope we get a few years of great offense, good continuity, a little bit less one and dones, 1 year transfer guys, and yeah, let's see what happens.
I think, when you finally win your tryout game, you get to make the move that you were thinking about making a few years ago. So going to be a lot of fun. The portal opened today. We're recording this about like 1:32 in the afternoon. Nobody's hopped in yet. They still, they still haven't officially announced his signing quite yet as we're recording this. I bet that comes later today or early on Tuesday. I bet we talk to him later this week, but it should be interesting to see what happens. It feels like there's, that Sean Miller likes Kendall Weaver. You heard him talk about that just the other day. That he can probably find use for someone like Jordan Pope. I think Nick Cody's father was on Facebook saying, we're committed to Texas. We'll see what happens there. Things can change pretty quickly, but obviously you'll think about guys that were at Xavier with Miller, who, made it to the round of 32, and what their futures may look like. Like you kind of mentioned, it's not like this team's going to need like 3 recruiting classes in order to get things done. They can solve things for next year, but you would like to see a little bit more program, like you said, continuity, a little bit more development. And, if you have to get on the 2-year cycle train, like I think is the way to go, you can start that 2-year cycle next year with some guys who maybe have a little bit more time left in their career. So before anything else on that, or are you ready to finish with laughing at some people who try to laugh at Texas and ended up getting laughed out of town?
Yeah, I think that the last thing on Sean Miller that I'll say is like there really aren't any true like guts and tear down to the studs anymore in college basketball. On the one hand, it's difficult for fans to really connect with the players. You don't necessarily have guys like Brad Buckman, AJ Abrams, Kenton Paulino anymore who stay for 4 years, and you have Royal Ivy. Obviously, I don't know how many years he was here, 13, but like, yeah, you don't have those relationships necessarily. But the good thing is you don't really have to, at a program like Texas, you really shouldn't have to endure that many years of suffering, because you can rebuild through the portal pretty fast. And I hope that Sean Miller maybe has more of the Sark approach, that they'll utilize the portal, but they won't be married to it, because we really saw when things fell apart for Rodney Terry, he was definitely, besides Trey Johnson, he was married to the portal here.
Should be a lot of fun to track. Before we finish up, I have word from one more sponsor, that is David McClellan.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor, and I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach, and he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kipling on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
Last but certainly not least, Schadenfreude of the week. And we've hit baseball for the past 2 times that we've had this feature. And with good reason. Texas just got finished playing a series with LSU, and these are 2 of the most historic, I'd say 2 of the top 3 most historic, successful college baseball programs. I think it goes LSU, Texas are right there, neck and neck. Of course, LSU's got more national championships, but Texas has all the Omaha appearances. USC, it's hard to argue with the 12 national titles, but they haven't been really relevant in 2 decades. All that's to say, Texas and LSU, they're the cream of the crop when you think about this sport. And LSU definitely has been the top of the line for the past couple of years. They come into Austin, think they're going to talk a big game, think they're going to play a big game with a lot of MLB draft guys on MLB draft watch lists and things like that. And they take it to Texas on Friday night. And you wrote something. The Schadenfreude is a little bit self-reflective this week. You wrote something. It's like they got a wake-up call. But to their credit, they woke up. And guys like Max Ballou, Rylan Galvan, Casey Borba, Dylan Volantis, Ruger Riojas, all those guys woke up on Saturday, took it to LSU Saturday, took it to LSU Sunday. And the Tigers, who were talking a huge game, have to go back with their tail between their legs to Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I mean, on Friday night, I was at the Dish. LSU fans were everywhere. People obviously were giving Texas fans crap for that, for a lot of opposing colors in their stadium. Like I've always said, the University of Texas is located in Austin, and people want to go to Austin. So it is always going to be a thing that opposing fans are at our stadiums, and it's just a reality. But the LSU fans were talking a lot of crap. You had the LSU players. I was sitting behind their dugout. They were mocking Texas's overhead clap celebration the whole game and just took it to us 8-2. The starting pitching for that night really looked like they were on different playing fields. LSU's speed really looked like it was in a different ballpark, no pun intended, than Texas. But man, Saturday night, that was the greatest non-postseason, non-regional game non-postseason, non-Omaha game that I can remember Texas baseball playing in a long time. I mean, that felt like, the stakes-wise, it felt like a football game, really. And guys that you didn't mention who also stepped up after struggling a bit. Will Gasparino, Tommy Farmer each had big moments in the series. And then yesterday, Texas got to return the favor on Friday night and really take it to LSU. I mean, Ruger Riojas was amazing. Rylan Galvan is the hottest player in the country. So it was the most satisfying series win that I can remember Texas baseball having ever, really, in my time of hardcore following Texas baseball, which obviously we've got a lot of guys on InsideTexas.com who have decades of knowledge of Texas baseball. So I'm sure they can find several other examples of bigger regular season series wins. But that was that from just a satisfying perspective, with LSU and Tennessee being the class of the SEC, to get a series win in our first home SEC series at the Dish, especially after the way that Friday night went, felt really good. And to send them home, like you said, with their tail between their legs, back to the swamp.
Only 6 games into a 30-game conference schedule, but Texas, I think, along with Tennessee, Georgia, and Arkansas, all sitting at 5-1. I believe in the SEC standings. Still 24 games to go, a long way between now and May. But
the Texas starting pitching does need to improve, because it's like, Texas got got away with the series win, and the defense got better over the course of the weekend. It was even halfway through game 2. The defense was pretty rough. They were making things hard on themselves. It was really good yesterday. Turned 2 several times, made several great plays. But yeah, the starting pitching from Luke Harrison, Jared Spencer does need to get better, because they currently don't have those. We don't have a Paul Skeens type on our team, which is obviously
walking through that door.
Yeah, he's a generational player, but you don't have those starting pitchers who are just like an automatic 1 run, an automatic win at this point. So it's going to take a team effort until we get to that point. And that's what's crazy about the Jim Schlossnagle era. This is year 1, and this team, this program, from just a talent development standpoint, is not even close to a finished product. So they are starting the year off obviously already overachieving. So where it could go from here gets really, really exciting.
Number 7 team in the country, and they head to Columbia, Missouri. And let's just say these Tigers are not that good at baseball.
I watched some of the Ole Miss in Missouri game yesterday when I got home from the dish, and let's just say that there was a dog in the 5th row, and that was the first fan that you could see behind home plate, was a dog, not a service dog, just a dog that came to the ballpark. So yeah, definitely don't want to take Missouri lightly, and want to come away with a series win, if not a sweep.
It's one of those things you can tell what sports certain SEC schools take seriously. And the Missouri Tigers' status in the league is very evident of how serious they take that one. So another great edition of the Reheat. Next time you see us, we'll have a ton to talk about from spring football, week 1, pro day reactions, some recruiting reactions, stuff like that. So make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Of course, head to InsideTexas.com. Just $1 will get you 4 months of access. It's the last week of March. So if you sign up now, that gets you all the way through the last week of July. That gets you spring football. That gets you recruiting visits all the way in March and April. That gets you camps in early June, official visits, decisions, recruiting intel, team summer workouts, all of that stuff. So make sure you head to InsideTexas.com. $1 for just 4 months. And of course, if you're looking for something on your summer reading list, head to longhornalphabet.com and maybe look at the local news if you're in Austin, or if on another KView soon for something on that. Right, RT?
Yep. Our guy, Corey Mose, will have you covered on that, getting to tell the story of Longhorn Alphabet, which was really cool. Corey does a great job. So once things calm down a little bit with Pro Day and Sean Miller and things like that, the Longhorn Alphabet will be on KView, which is really exciting.
RT, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Again, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com.